Hey everybody, it's Jay. A few weeks ago I did a video on this WBP Fox, and in that video I talked about how this was my go-to gun. Someone in the comments said the only thing it really seemed like it was missing was a light, and I agree. Actually, I already had a light on order, and not only did I have a light on order, I had a railed lower handguard and an upper handguard to attach a light. I typically hate quad rails. I would generally prefer not to have them, but in this instance I picked up a MLock compatible lower handguard that I was going to use on this gun from AKOU, only to find that the lower handguard I got, and I'll put the name of it at the bottom of the video right now because I've forgotten what it was, actually wouldn't really work with this gun. And the reason is it because it lacked a lower retainer. What would happen is that handguard would move vertically up and down quite a bit and horizontally front to back, and it was just it was just way too loose. Now, that would help if I took the cleaning rod out. This lower retainer doesn't exist in that handguard. It's just basically an empty shell, and there were no springs in the front either. And I suspect that this is because the WBP, I believe, uses a barrel style front handguard retainer versus the more typical AKM style, but I could be wrong about that. I could go double check on my barrel, but I don't want to have to take the handguard off to double check it. But yeah, so I ended up getting a WBP railed lower handguard because I figured it would be basically a drop-in part, and it does look like it's got all the spots that I need to drop this in. And that's why I decided to go ahead and do a video on this little addition, because most of you guys probably already know what it's like to change handguards out. But because that's a little bit of a unique situation, I figured it might be worth kind of doing a little bit of a video to follow up and say kind of why I ended up going WBP and why I also ended up getting a quad rail. This is going to need some AK persuasion. So we slip this retainer down after hammer it in a little bit with a nylon hammer, then just flip that tab down to lock it down. One of the reasons why I wanted to end up getting a light for this is because, frankly, if this is going to be a go-to gun for me, I want to be able to have a light source. So I'm going to put a light on this in addition to the illuminated reticle of the primary arms, and for that I picked up this inForce Gen 2 WMLx white light. This is the 800 lumen version. I went with this because of the slim profile. It is a larger light, but it's got this kind of tapered design that's very sleek and seems like it'd be easy to hit with the offhand. I do also have a much brighter spotlight type light with a Picatinny rail mount on it, and if I need it for anything else, it does have a Predator filter on it as well, so it should make it fairly practical. An upper handguard and gas tube from WBP. Now, one interesting thing that I've already noticed about this is fitment is decidedly required. Unlike with the lower handguard, that is basically a drop-in part for this gun. This, you can see, is a little too long to fit in this gun. And in addition to it being too long, it's also a little bit too wide on the top. And WBP says that the reason that is because because there's so many variances in AK tolerances, they want you to be able to fit it to your gun so you don't have a lot of movement, especially if you're going to mount an optic of some stripe on there and you want to actually be able for it to hold 0. Weight-wise, they feel pretty close. I actually think this actually almost feels a little bit lighter than the conventional plastic handguard, but I really don't know if I want to fit this because I haven't 100% decided if I'm going to use it yet. I don't really plan on using a top rail for anything. So I think I'm just going to set this aside. I'll save it for another gun project later. But yeah, if I ever need an upper rail, I guess I'll have one in the parts bin. I'm not going to bother sending it back. I wanted to see what it would look like and to see if I was going to decide to use it or not, and I didn't want to order them separately, pay double shipping, and end up needing to order it separately after all my stuff came in. So we're just going to go back in with the standard plastic upper handguard. One of the things I thought is it might be kind of mismatched, but it actually looks pretty good to me, so we're going to stick with that. Another thing that I noticed was in the shooting portion of that video, I was losing my grip a little bit on the gun, and I mentioned needing a little bit of extra grip, that I found that the barrel handguards were a little too slick. And while I don't think the WBP plastic lower handguard is particularly slippery, I found that I'm much better off with a hand stop of some stripe, and generally my preferred hand stop is just a Magpul AFG. So we're going to mount that as well. I also forgot to mention that I do have an AKT, ALG, AKT. Swap that, reverse it, which is generally my favorite AK trigger when you can find them. So that improves the shooting experience to me quite a bit, and it helps my accuracy a little bit too. So we're all back together with the lower handguard. I think that paint on there actually matches. It matches the gun really well, and it actually matches that upper handguard pretty well. So aesthetically, that's nice looking. We're going to go ahead and swap out that little stub for the smooth one. That stub tends to dig right into my finger. One thing, highly recommend, get you a decent drill bit set, gunsmithing bit set. It's got a lot of different sizes in it, so you don't end up screwing up the finish or scratching things, or worse, stripping screws out. One thing that I've found that's been kind of neat, that I'm kind of experimenting with right now, I'm a little bit undecided 100% how valuable it is this electric screwdriver. I found it to be pretty good as far as keeping from over tightening, and also getting just a very straight lineup whenever I'm screwing optics mounts and such in and out. If you're around any automotive parts guys, these little parts trays, magnetic, so you can drop your parts in. They don't go rolling off under the table for you. Quite painless. And you can use it manually to snug screws if you need to, if the motor is not enough. Cool, pretty much a perfect fit there for that rail section. All right, so the screw is going to go through the rail section, and then we're locked on. And then we're going to grab our light, which is this here. Uses two 3-volt lithium batteries. Let's see. Yeah, device batteries, they call them. Used to call them back in the day. I think you used to see these in flashlights all the time. And then adjustable tension to set it to the rail. And then this little thing is spring loaded. I'm not going to actually tighten it down. I'm just going to check fitment on it, and then I'll tighten it down and lock it. All right, so I've got it set where I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and use this little knurled knob here to tighten it. I would kind of wish that top rail had been a drop-in part, so I could at least look to see what it would look like on there. Even though I think all it's going to do is add a little more bulk, not necessarily weight, but a little more bulk without actually any practicality for me, because I'm using the side rail already. So what I thought actually earlier was a cam lever is not a cam lever. This is actually a function mode that's solid. And then you flip it for press. So yeah, there you go. I was like, well, this has to have different modes, and that's how he uses it. It's not a cam lever at all. So yeah, you just use this knurled knob here to tighten down. And then right now it's too tight. The way it's tensioned, it's too tight for me to press it in and remove it from the rail. So that should stay locked on, but we'll see. I'll shoot it some and see how it goes. Oh, it's got a little flip up safety thing on it to keep it from being bumped accidentally. But it's otherwise a very basic weapon. I didn't really want anything too fancy, because yeah, I just needed a light. I've already got an illuminated reticle. That's it. That project is done. Be fun to take this back out with the AFG and see how it handles. Yeah, it really doesn't add a significant amount of bulk, honestly. So, seems all right. This is Jay. Hope you liked the video. Please click like if you did. Be sure to subscribe to us if you haven't already. And be sure to check out our Patreon page if you want to help support us. And we'll see you again soon next time.